Hello, good morning and welcome to the AM News. I am Mapita Sibiri. In our first story, Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbon has lashed out at First Deputy Speaker Joseph Osei-Owusu over what he describes as his penchant to overturn his rulings. The Bakwe MP, who was in the Speaker's chair on Tuesday, threw out a private member's motion for a probe into government's COVID-19 expenditure since the outbreak of the pandemic. The motion, which stood in the name of the Ajumako Enyan Esiam MP, Kasil Atufosin, and seconded by the Minority Chief Whip, Muntaka Mubarak, was arrested by the Deputy Majority Leader, Alexander Afenyo-Marking, argued the Auditor General is the only body clothed with the powers to conduct audits. Speaker Bagbon, who was in the seat, ruled that the objection can only be raised after the motion has been tabled. Mr. Bagbon then vacated his seat for his first deputy, Joseph Osei-Owusu. The objection from the Afutu MP was now sustained, contrary to the ruling of the Speaker. He argued the motion ought not to have been admitted in the first place. Alban Bagbon, who is upset with the development, described the conduct of the First Deputy Speaker as illegal, unconstitutional and offensive.
Another issue that requires addressing is the decision of the First Deputy Speaker to upend my admission of the motion and rule that the motion should not have been admitted in the first place. Honorable members, it is interesting to note that this is the second time the First Deputy Speaker has taken the chair and has made a ruling which in fact was to overrule a position I had earlier on established before the House. In fact, the First Deputy Speaker was in my office. And what I'm telling you today, I told him before he left to the airport. The First Deputy Speaker has contended, and rightfully so, on several occasions, that he is not the Speaker. I have also, on several occasions, alluded to various areas of parliamentary practice, where when the Speaker is in the chair, makes a ruling, another presiding officer may not overturn that ruling. The penchant of the First Deputy Speaker to overrule my rulings is, to say the least, unconstitutional, illegal, and offensive. Be that as it may, I shall not be taking any steps to overrule the decision of the First Deputy Speaker to dismiss the motion as moved by the Honourable Ranking Member of the Finance Committee. The Deputy Speakers and I will deliberate on how to present a more coherent and uniform structure in respect of rulings so that the House is guided at all times during deliberations.
The Speaker also threatened to compel the marshals to drag out MPs who are in breach of parliamentary proceedings.
I have travelled, witnessed, read, and at least I think I know a lot that you may not have gone through. What is happening in this parliament is completely unacceptable. And I'm not sure you have appreciation of the temperature of the country. Neither am I sure you know the arduous nature of the responsibility that have been placed on your shoulders. You are all mature adults. What I'm talking about is still happening. The Marshal Department, get ready. I'll be compelled to get a marshal to get people arrested and sent out. You are saying A. Parliament is not a place for joking. It's a place for business, serious national business. The parliament we are in has never been in Ghana, even Gold Coast. This is a different type of parliament. We must be prepared to change, to accept the decision of the people and work together. You make me sick. Will you shut up? You rule out of order in the House.
With more than 8 million social media users in Ghana, it is expected information on COVID-19 vaccination will be readily accessible through these portals. But that is not the case in a new joint study by the KNUST School of Public Health, University of Development Studies and IRIS Research Consortium. The study found close to 60% of over 2,000 correspondents heard information on COVID-19 vaccination through the traditional media. On Tech Thursday today, JoyNews medical correspondent Dr. Netta Pasram speaks with one of the lead scientists, Dr. John Amosi of the School of Public Health, KNUST.
The role of media and other information sources on information dissemination cannot be underestimated. The researchers therefore analyzed the role of information sources on vaccine hesitancy. Though it was an online study, the researchers found the larger number of respondents obtained their information through traditional media.
Where people had heard of COVID-19 vaccination, and overwhelmingly, and this is really important, majority got it from regular media, especially television. This was about 58, close to 60%. Social media was just about 30%. We should tell you that, and this is an online survey. So it should tell you that in the general population that may not have had access to this online survey, most likely that traditional media sources would have been the way they heard about it. So it should tell you we sometimes there's too much emphasis on social media, but that may only target a certain section of the population. And so it's really important that we take advantage of our traditional radio, TV, newspapers, and all that to push the message forward to people.
Despite the wide use of social media, traditional media is still in vogue. Reporting for JoyNews, Dr. Netta Pasram.
The Adaklu district of the Volta region has recorded an increase in indicators in the health sector in 2021. The district witnessed a spike in antenatal care, skilled delivery, routine immunization coverage, family planning, OPD attendance, while maternal mortality remained at 0. Correspondent Fred Komasari reports from the 2021 District Annual Performance Review meeting.
Healthcare delivery in the Adaklu district is challenged with a lack of transport, medical logistics, office equipment, furniture, among others.
As a health worker, in delivering our duties, mostly our challenge has been funding of programs. And then, let's say if you want to go out to the community to do health education, on any health education, you need money, you need funds to be able to pay for your fuel and any other, like your transport to the places to be able to deliver.
However, this development did not deter health workers from giving off their best, leading to an increase in health indicators in 2021. The Adaklu District Health Director, Charles Azagba, said the directorate is poised to improve on this in 2022.
From the indicators or from the analysis, we realize that there is an improvement in all our indicators as compared to the year 2020. For instance, when you look at antenatal coverage, it has increased from 51.3% to 66.7%. And one major improvement was in the area of immunization, where we have seen improvement from 71.2 to 84% in 2021. So I would say that apart from teenage pregnancy, we have seen much improvement in all our indicators: ANC, skill delivery, postnatal care, family planning. Yeah, for the directorate, we just want to continue with the activities that we're carrying out so that we maintain that. We want to see much more improvement in all these indicators. You see that even though we have improved, we have not reached 100%. So we ensure that once we continue with these strategies that we put in place, we should be able to get to around 100%.
He detailed that efforts are being made to reduce teenage pregnancy in the district.
From 2019 to 20 to this 2021, we have seen some increase, or the teenage pregnancy has actually increased in the district. From that 12 to 13, and at the end of 2021, it has increased to 18%. We may say this is due to this COVID-19 pandemic. Rather than when the COVID-19 came in 2020, we were not able to do much because we were not supposed to have meetings, conferences, etc. So we stopped meeting these adolescents from 2020 to 2022, and that's why you have seen this increase in the teenage pregnancy. And we believe that this 2022, we're going to work on this. We started meeting the adolescents. Once we are observing the COVID-19 protocols, we'll be meeting them and engage them in so many activities so that by the end of the year, we should see some reduction in the teenage pregnancy. Close collaboration with the District Assembly as well as our Member of Parliament. It's also helping so much in the area of infrastructure.
Some best performing health workers were identified and honored. The Adaklu district placed 6th among the 18 municipalities and districts on the ranking of selected holistic assessment indicators in the Volta region. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, Adaklu, Chirpe.
To improve girls' participation in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics-related courses in rural areas, the US-Ghana alumni has held a week-long STEM clinic for 51 girls in the Kwanza South municipality of the Bono East region. Organizers say the training would instill confidence as well as encourage more girls to venture into STEM-related courses. Correspondent Anna Sabit has more in this report.
Ghana made strides in access to education during the Millennium Development Goals era. Girls' participation in science, technology, engineering and mathematics subjects in high schools continue to remain lower than that of boys, especially in rural communities. There are many factors that influence this unfortunate phenomenon, and this includes a false belief amongst girls that science-related subjects are more suited for boys. To help improve the situation at hand and close the gap, the US-Ghana alumni held a STEM clinic for 51 girls in the Nkranza South municipality of the Bono East region. Dr. Hilda Mantibia Boy is the president of the US-Ghana alumni.
We know that it's difficult for many girls to venture into science, and especially in many of the rural areas, you see parents are more likely to educate or concentrate on empowering or sending their boy children to school, leaving the girl children to do other things, or not really to push them to go further in their educational pursuits. But we thought that with this, it could be a measure to help. We may not be able to reach every single girl, but we can reach some girls. And this one particularly is for 51 girls that we are taking through the STEM program.
She noted that the STEM clinic is one of the ways of encouraging the girl child into venturing into science and math-related courses.
We believe that the STEM clinic is one of the ways to go. It's just one of the ways to go. Now, the other component will be in the homes. We need to constantly encourage our parents and the people in the community that the girl is no different from the boy when it comes to intelligence.
For Evans O'Day, a mathematics tutor at the Achimota School and one of the 2021 top 10 teachers in the world who is amongst the mentors of the project, there should be a voluntary attempt to move away from the terrible way of teaching STEM courses and move into making it more practical.
Yeah, the situation currently in the schools, especially in line with science and maths, or let's say the STEM courses that we do in secondary schools, has become more of theoretical sort of lessons. Students are always targeting writing exams and pass. And so anything practical, they want to theoreticalize it so that at least they can write exams and pass. And that has been, actually, it's not our fault as teachers. The system actually has created it. And so this project actually is trying to help the kids to realize the practical aspect of STEM.
He adds that the practical way of teaching STEM courses would help attract more girls into the area.
So I believe the impact is great. And I'm sure as they progress with this sort of training that we are giving them, they will fall in love with the subject, and then they will do it. They will love science, they will love math, because they see practical math here, they see practical science here, and I'm sure that will encourage them to enter into engineering and other related programs that goes with STEM.
Labeled and abused. That's the story of Mariama Sihu, a mental health patient who lost her memory from a ghastly motor accident. As a trained teacher with many years of practice, her joy in recovering from the incident was to be amplified by her return to the classroom. But that won't happen. She was labeled by her colleague teachers with names which were picked up by her students. Watch.
What's worse, even before she could deal with the psychological effects of the torture and abuse she had experienced at the hand of her caregiver, Mariama found herself trapped in another emotional pressure cooker, her school.
I was hurt after the accident when I returned back to school. Children were afraid to approach me. Meanwhile, usually when I get to school, children run to me. They come and embrace me, but they were afraid. So I had to ask some of them. They told me that this madam said I had an accident and I was mad. I said, really? Do mad people look like this? Then no. I said, I'm not mad. It's just that after the accident, the impact of the accident on me made me not to sleep, and I had headaches.
Gradually, Mariama was thrown into a chronic state of depression.
I can get so depressed as I did. I can get so depressed that to the extent of me even getting up to brush my teeth is even a problem, let alone walking out of the room.
People suffering from mental health disorders and other related conditions are predisposed to depression. This is mainly because of their tendencies to withdraw completely from everyone else and keep to themselves.
Those were some excerpts of our latest Hotline documentary, Mind Matters. The full documentary is Monday on all JoyNews platforms. And that's how we end the AM News. For more news, you can log into myjoyonline.com. I am Mapito Sibidi.
Well, here we are, and there you are on the other end. Thank you for joining us, staying with us on the AM show. It's time now for us to dig into the papers, but just the tip of the iceberg if you've not followed what is happening in, that part of Europe between Ukraine and, of course, Russia. Well, Vladimir Putin giving the go-ahead for the bombardment to start as far as Ukraine is concerned. A grave matter of concern. And later on the show this morning, as we talk about, the big stories, the big issues, we'll be taking a close look at that. We'll keep a keen eye on that because we have students in both countries, Ghanaian students, will be interacting on that beat. But joining us this morning, we have Selim Brantier, a policy analyst with Imani Africa. He'll be joining us shortly as we get into the papers for the morning. There you are, Selim. I see you. Good morning.
Morning.
It's a pleasure having you. How are you this morning?
I'm great.
We've been in there in recent times. Some cold sores give you indication that we've seen better times, but God has been good. Anyway, so let's dig into this issue when it comes to what is happening between Russia and Ukraine. Let's start from the international front. What is your take on this? What does it mean for our students? And maybe even more, what does it mean for petroleum products? Now, Gas, for example, we know that Russia feeds the rest of Europe about 40% of the gas component that goes into the rest of Europe. European countries, the likes of Germany, the UK, France, and others, have been contemplating getting their sources elsewhere. Qatar has told them they can only supply a maximum of 15%. So even as we talk sanctions and all of that on Russia, it is clear that it is a major juggernaut and that, who knows, it just might get away with this onslaught on Ukraine. What's your take?
To be honest, my first fear is for the students, the Ghanaian students, lots of Ghanaian medical students in Russia and Ukraine. They will be caught up in this in a way in which they would not have bargained for. It also means a lot of work for our Ghanaian diplomatic missions in both countries, because they would have to secure the safety of all these students who are going to be caught in the crossfire, unfortunately. The biggest problem here, or the biggest headache that the Ghanaian foreign ministry will be how to make sure that we can corral and account for every single one of these students and make sure they are safe, especially also knowing that it is winter and therefore the weather conditions aren't the best, especially for Ghanaians, looking at where we come from. And then the fact that these countries are particularly very cold countries, most of our students would not understand the local languages well enough and the local cultures well enough. And they'll be caught up in this conflict in a way that will be very traumatic for them, unfortunately, because the kind of social protections that they could have had would not be there, and deviants would probably take advantage of that. So for me, that is the biggest concern. And there are quite a lot of Ghanaian students in Ukraine, for example, and so especially in the medical field. So that would be a big issue. Moving beyond that, the economic ramifications are already coming to bear. I hear, as of when I woke up about an hour ago, and I just flipped my phone open, I hear oil prices are now crossing the 100 barrier. All in all, Africa is just going to be a huge economic casualty in this war, because by no fault of ours, by no intervention of ours, we are going to bear the economic brunt of a very big war. We are going to face a situation where a lot of industrial activity will not work out. The prices will change, etc., because of the fact that the crude oil prices are going to grind to a halt. A lot of small businesses that depend on lower cost of fuel to be able to make ends meet or cost production to happen. So in all of this, it is the most vulnerable populations that are going to suffer. And even the turmoil it's going to cause in Europe cannot be very well predicted. I hear there's a meeting of the EU in Brussels today, an emergency meeting in Brussels today to try and look at all of these things. The intervention of the forces, NATO, for example, is going to be in a way not very clear because of the fact that Ukraine is not having full control of all its borders. So Ukraine cannot even join NATO at the moment. You're looking at the situation where we do not know how the rest of Europe is going to react to this. And of course, the global supply of oil. That is a big, 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 big issue. The global supply of oil is especially to Europe, and gas. Knowing that it's winter means that maybe Russia might be able to get away to a large extent with what they've tried to do or what they are trying to do. And I wonder how troops are going to be rallied to go and face this, as this could create almost the beginning of a third world war in quotes, because the likes of Georgia, the likes of other smaller states surrounding Russia are going to be, like they say in tree proverbially, if you see that somebody's house is burning, somebody's beard is burning, you take a cup of water and put by yours. They would also be looking at this to look at how best they can also protect themselves, as it were. So it's really, really, really
so it's
cages,
right.
whichever way you look.
It's a complex issue to determine, and it's interesting because while the United Nations was meeting around the same time, Vladimir Putin was likely ordering his troops, with feedback from the Duma, to go ahead and launch this attack. And like you say, it has implications, ripple effects that it likely will have on petroleum, on gas, across the world, not just Europe. But do you feel that on the back of, and the US has been warning that this attack was imminent. You have about 200,000 Russian soldiers that have lined up on the border with Ukraine and now have entered those two cities that have been taken by opposition pro-Russian forces. Do you feel we should have acted more swiftly to get our students, for example, outside of the country or create some environment of safety for them? You recall that when COVID-19 hit, there were calls for Ghanaian students to have been brought back home and all of that. In this instance, have we been lethargic, slow in our approach? Because now the fight is on.
Yeah, it's difficult to determine. I'm sure all of us were wishing that Russia was just calling its own bluff. And I'm sure we did not expect things to escalate to this manner. But even then, the logistics required, looking at the uncertainty of the situation, it will be very hard to tell because, I don't know whether you are aware, but even the Ukrainian government, for example, has been under a bunch of cyber attacks that knocked out government services and systems. In that kind of environment, it will take only a very rich country, the likes of the US and European countries, for example, to be able to handle some of these things logistically well enough. That's the truth of the matter. I mean, a country with limited resources like Ghana, Ghana is a country where even, was it about a couple of years, 3 years ago, for example, our students who were on scholarship in Ukraine, for example, were even stranded. Some of them didn't even have money. But the government could not pay for their tuition and their feeding fees, etc. And some of them had to rely on family members, etc. This is the kind of situation we've been facing. So unfortunately, whilst the government could have been proactive, it could have also been an effort in futility if, for example, the situation hadn't escalated. I don't think that this is the time to point fingers at the government per se, because this situation is so complex that even the Europeans themselves, who know the history and the culture and how the tensions have been escalating, etc., or where it was supposed to end up, I don't think they themselves were very sure of what was happening. Unfortunately, to the two regions which are declaring independence, Donetsk and the other one, they are also economic powerhouses where there are a lot of Ghanaians. And I believe that one of the issues here is even how to organize that kind of logistics or how to organize these things. Right. In the midst of all the growing tension and the troop movements. In the midst of COVID-19,
in the midst of our own economic turmoil and all of that. So we have our own bits to grapple with. Yeah. Right. I'll come right back to you, Selim, on this beat. But let me go as well and find out from the students themselves. Now, the National Union of Ghana Students has issued a statement on this. Yesterday, they put out a statement about their concerns. Julius Kwame Anthony is General Secretary. He joins us. Julius, thank you for having breakfast with us. Can you hear me, Julius? I believe we've lost Julius Kwame Anthony. He's General Secretary for NUGS. But just to give you a brief idea of what they put in their statement yesterday, it was titled Statement on Russian-Ukrainian Territorial Conflict, Safeguard of Ghanaian Students Studying in Ukraine and Russia. And they were basically calling on Ghana to be proactive when it comes to evacuating students if there's going to be any such thing, especially from the eastern provinces where there seems to be the hardest bit of conflict or the most likely conflict, looking at those two areas that are pro-Russia. When we connect with Julius Kwame Anthony, we'll take more on what his thoughts are as far as NUGS is concerned. Julius, good morning. Hello, Julius. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Now, you put out a statement yesterday concerning what is happening between Ukraine and Russia. Now we know there's a full-blown attack. What is the status right now, or what is your thinking? Have we waited for too long to move out our students?
Yes, I think for too long.
Julius, if you could just speak up a little, we'd love to hear you better.
Yeah, waiting for too long, especially given the fact that there has been no advisory or directive, to Ghanaian students or even Ghanaians in general in Ukraine as to what our mission is to do over there, whether there will be flights available for them to even make payments and nothing of the sort. Meanwhile, I've been corresponding with our colleagues up there, and I have of all the other embassies, the Embassy of India, the Embassy of Peru, Embassy of Egypt, all of them giving clear directives to their students as to what exactly to do, who to call, all those things. And
so basically, from what you're saying, Julius, you've been interacting with students there, just to clarify, you've been interacting with Ghanaian students there, and the feeling is they don't know their left from their right. They don't know what the way forward is. You speak of the embassies, the missions of India, Egypt, and the rest, reaching out to their students, telling them what to do, what not to do, and all that. But nothing as far as the Ghanaians are concerned.
Nothing. No formal statements that can be referenced, nothing of the sort.
How worried are the students, those you've interacted with? How worried are they?
Yeah, they are very worried. As I said to you, some of them who have the means are already in Ghana.
Wow.
I met two of them yesterday who are already in Ghana. And one was even in Kharkiv. And Kharkiv was one of the regions that there were airstrikes today. And I was speaking to him this dawn, and according to him, others are calling him with a whole lot of frustration. I spoke with quite a number, even prior to the airstrikes this morning.
Right.
That was yesterday in the day. And there's a sense of worry, but we don't seem to see any urgency, in response to that level of worry. And with this sort of thing, I don't think that we even need students to start expressing worry before government acts. Once this situation begins, it's incumbent on, our mission over there to give direction. And there's no embassy of Ghana in Ukraine itself directly. It's only in Switzerland, and then there's a consulate who works with those in Ukraine. But up to now, there's been no statement from them to give any direction like the others are doing. And personally, I feel frustrated by it because we were in China, in the advent of COVID, even though COVID is not necessarily war. There's a state of emergency. We were having, if in case of anything, called. When there was the need for evacuation, we were evacuated. So you have a similar situation in what appears to be, tensions and possibilities of an all-out war. We feel that government is not doing enough.
So it seems government is not doing enough. That's what you're saying. Now, having benefited from a scholarship program and spent a year outside of the country, I can know exactly how that would feel. These students you've interacted with, though, are they willing to be brought back home? Are they willing for their academic progress to be truncated? Are they willing to come back to Ghana?
No, the case is that most of the courses have been migrated online. There are interactions with them, since these developments have started. Their courses have been migrated online. So it's not even a case that their academic progress will be truncated of a sort if they are supposed to be moved back temporarily. So they would continue. The ones who have come here are still, continue with their academic work. So yes, there could be that plan work for them to be brought home, and they will still have to continue their academic work via online means.
Okay, so tell me, you've given a bit of a roadmap in the statement that you put out, opting for the process that was used in China to be implemented by and large in this instance as well. Now that the fighting has already broken out, it appears we've missed that first window of making an impact. But moving forward, what would you propose to government to do, the Education Ministry and others, to do to safeguard the lives of our brothers and sisters in Ukraine and Russia?
Well, if what we are following from the news portals and all that are anything to go by, the attacks now are largely on military installation and some airports that are affiliated with, Air Force bases of Ukraine and all that, which means that I believe there's still the possibility for civilians to leave. So that window is not completely shut to us, as you would put it. So if government puts in urgent steps now, I think we could still get people out if we want to.
For me, Julius, we have someone who has been there before, in Ukraine to be specific, who now is in the country. Prince, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you very much for having me. That's Prince.
Right. When did you get into Ghana?
I think I touched down. That was on Saturday. Yeah.
On Saturday.
Yeah.
And you were in Ukraine reading what? What program were you reading? Are you done with your program?
I was doing my postgraduate medicine at PN Karazi National University.
Postgraduate medicine. So you're still continuing with the program?
Yes.
Why did you come to Ghana?
For my school, they gave an option up to first people that if you feel you are unsafe.
Prince, if you could just go back. I'm struggling to hear what you're saying. Just go back to what you started.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, better.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, so like I said, my school provided a medium. If you feel you are unsafe, you can leave the country, and then you continue with online medium. So first April. That's if nothing changes.
Okay, so if I got you correctly, that if you felt you were unsafe, you could leave the country and continue online.
Exactly, yes, please.
Right. And so you took that option.
Yeah, I took that option.
How easy was it gathering funds to, get back into Ghana, to fly back to Ghana?
Well, it was a bit tough because looking at that, I wasn't the only student flying out. Other countries have also ordered their nationals, so the airport was busy, and then people were flying in and out. Flying out most majorly. So the ticket prices were, high as compared to the normal we know. Yes, like an airline like Turkish Air.
Right.
The ticket price was around 1,300 upwards.
Right. I hear other countries, India, Egypt, and even other African countries have been, given protocols for their students to follow and aiding them evacuate where possible. Have you had any such communication from our embassy in Kiev? It appears we've lost. Is that Prince we just lost? Unfortunately, we've lost Prince, but we'll get him back on the line and just clarify some of those matters. Of course, what we're doing is not necessarily to pile pressure on the administration, but also to let them know what is happening there, have first-hand information, and aid our brothers and sisters. But the footage you see in the background, scenes from Kiev in Ukraine. Julius, so just to wrap the conversation with you and get back to Selom Brantier, I was asking you, what is the way forward from where you sit in just about some 30 seconds?
Well, the conflict in Ukraine have already made some sort of appeal of decision of a sort to the ministry. So we will be referencing that the correspondence to ask them to take urgent steps. And then we are considering petitioning Parliament in the event that we feel that the ministry is not acting very fast, so that the committee will take the matter up today on that issue. The rest will be to keep, touch with our colleagues back there and take updates from them so that we will well inform the kind of decisions we take. But in the interim, whoever is listening, the ministry work, don't always need to wait for things to escalate before we act.
Right.
What were we doing when other nationals were giving directives? In fact, the Chinese, when they didn't have intention to evacuate, at least gave directives, stock up food, do this. Why can't we give similar directions to our people, even if it's a situation that we cannot evacuate, so that they know what exactly they are doing out there? Why can't we do that?
Right.
Whoever is listening, these things should be done. They should get to work. this attitude of waiting till things escalate is becoming too much, and it doesn't help anybody.
All right. Thank you, Julius, for joining us with your thoughts on this development. Julius Kwame Anthony is General Secretary NUGS, and he joined us there. Let me go back to Prince, who has actually been there in Ukraine at the center of a place that would have been bombarded. Prince, welcome back. So I was asking about what other countries have done and whether you've got any similar contact from our mission in Kiev.
Yeah, so like I said, well, unfortunately, we don't have an embassy in Kiev.
Right.
We have an honorary consulate designate.
Right. So it's a consulate, is it?
Yes, honorary consulate designate. But as it stands now, honestly, I haven't seen any publication being issued out from any of our correspondents.
Right. And how disturbing is that? That as an international student, you found yourself in a foreign country, and all this was happening around you, you together with your colleagues, and there was absolutely no communication. How did that make you feel?
Well, I mean, at the point I thought there's some negligence somewhere, because entirely in Majuli, a lot of people or a lot of students there are reading medicine. And then even if attitude of our government, all government is like this, that, it will now give us the alternative that, okay, why should we come back to even serve our mother country when we are done?
Oh,
so,
wow.
I felt a bit disappointed.
That made you even contemplate, if you were left on your own there, when you're done with your studies, you're not even contemplating coming to serve Mother Ghana.
Definitely, because if I'm not seeing any help from anywhere, then...
Right. So for you, what is the way forward? What are you going to do next? Yes, online studies and all that. What is the way forward for you?
Yeah, so like I said, I just stick to my school directives, and they are given, I received a directive from my school email indicating bomb shelter areas
right.
we can hide, provided there's any emergency. But at least the government should also do something, like issue a communique, giving us, like just sympathizing with us that they are with us. Then we know that at least we are not alone.
Right.
And if something can be, even if a major evacuation cannot be done, we can see how things will roll, especially the eastern and the central corridors of Ukraine, where there are a lot of Ghanaian students to get a good side in either of the western side. Even if we understand the government is broke and everything, but majorly, if something can be done on that aspect, then we'll be very good.
Prince, just briefly, in maybe some 5 seconds, give me an answer to this. I'm sure you engaged other students, your friends or colleagues in Ukraine as well.
Yeah, I think
did they give indication? Did they give indication they also wanted to come back to Ghana? All of them.
That's what they have been. I've been just receiving calls this dawn, because when they had the explosion, they were all anxious and then thinking of best alternatives. So if there's any alternatives to come back, why not? They will all jump on it.
All right. Prince, thank you for joining the conversation. Prince just returned on Saturday from Ukraine. Salom, so that is the picture we have here. My apologies for keeping you this long, but we had to hear from the horse's own mouth. So I'll give you some 30 seconds. How do you digest all of what they've said? Slow response, our students are stranded, they want to see something from government. Your quick response.
Yeah, absolutely. It is quite unfortunate that from what I'm hearing about the students, that in all of this, there was no instruction given from the Ghanaian Foreign Ministry to assist the students, when we all know. And the students that are there, they are not just they are the rich from rich backgrounds, poor backgrounds, different kinds of backgrounds. These are the future of the nation, and they are going out there to go and try and improve their skills and come and help the country. It's very unfortunate, for example, that you would hear that nothing has been done so far. Right now, as we are speaking, the commercial airspace in Ukraine has been locked down, so you cannot even fly around even if you wanted.
Right.
I don't know, but the government needs, within the next 2 to 3 hours, the foreign ministry needs to come up with a statement. If this government was able to put parliamentarians on a private jet for them to fly in and come and vote for, in favor of the E-Levy, they should be able to put resources together to ensure that at least there is a safe transport of Ghanaian students who are in the affected regions in the eastern part of Ukraine to a safer place. They should be able to liaise with either the UN or the EU or whichever NATO or whichever multinational coalition that exists that can help ensure the peace. And they should be able to liaise with them and come up with a concrete statement within the next 6 hours or so. As much as it's the diplomatic nightmare, it looks like the Ghanaian foreign ministry has a lot to be blamed for if any of our students are stranded.
Let's quickly get into some major stories from the papers. I'll just pick out the most topical ones so we can talk about them. But I'll read out from the Daily Graphic. Ghanaian foreign students bemoan financial challenges. That's on page 13 of the paper. Komenda Sugar Factory acquires 20,000 acres for plantation. And then there's plain-spoken engagement. Council of State meets minority consensus building high on agenda. But let's take a quick look at this one. Overruling my decisions unconstitutional. And the speaker had some choice words for his first deputy, Joseph, or Joe Osei-Wusu, Joe Wise as we call him, saying that his penchant for overruling his rulings is unconstitutional, illegal and offensive, telling some members of parliament to shut up and telling them that if they insist on doing some of the things they've done, creating quite a ruckus on the floor, he would have some of them thrown out of parliament. Some say stern move by the speaker, and yes, what must pertain if you look at other parliaments, but has the speaker overshot it? Salam.
This year's parliament is one of a kind. So it will require a very firm hand of a speaker to be able to ensure that any machinations that are being brought on the floor are still in line with parliamentary business. So I believe that sometimes, from what we've seen about how unruly they've been, especially in the last 3 months or so, it is very clear that they need a very firm hand to steady that ship. And if it means telling them, talking down to them like school children to make sure that the right thing is done, we probably just have to have that, because I think that we cannot have a weak speaker manning the events, especially with the kinds of tensions that we are seeing in Parliament with regards to certain crucial bills. So we would probably need a very firm and strong hand. And it is a reminder to them that, yeah, they might have privileges, but they still have to follow protocol. They still have to follow rules. And it also means that the speaker himself should also be able to subject himself to such rules and protocols as and when required, so that he does not become a lord of the manor or some kind of bully in the house, if we're to put it that way. Because these are very, very strange times, if you put it that way, especially with regards to the conduct of Parliament.
All right.
And therefore, you need that firm, steady hand, no matter what.
One constituency, $1 million initiative, 162 million Ghana cedis invested into 1,473 projects in 6 coastal regions. Business Finder newspaper. That's the final story I'll do, because the other newspapers as well also carry similar stories. But my final take with you, Selim, as quickly as you can. Sarah Adwasafo, Member of Parliament for Dobekwa Abenya, and all the things that have happened, now a suggestion that she will be or has been sacked. Have we been fair to the Dobekwa Abenya MP, especially considering that some say her health is not what it could be? What is your quick take?
I mean, so these are internal party matters. However, she represents a constituency which is a constituency of all Ghanaians and not the NPP party. And to the extent that she's shirking her duties in Parliament and then she's giving ultimatums and rules on how she's going to behave and whether she's going to represent her own people, then it means that she probably does not deserve to be in the seat, health-wise or not. I mean, if she's not in good health, then the best thing is to have resigned to allow for somebody else who is ready to lead the wishes of the people of the Dome-Kwabena constituency and assist in lawmaking for the whole country to take the reins and handle that. If she's not in the right capacity to do that for whatever reason, the honorable thing to do will be to resign. It's as simple as that, because it's not a party thing. She represents the wishes and aspirations of a community and not the NPP.
Salam. Akpe Kata. Thank you so much for joining the conversation. I knew that would get you. Have a good morning. And we proceed from here. A lot of action in the Champions League yesterday. My very own Red Devils are drawing with Atletico Madrid in an interesting encounter. But our apologies for bringing sports this late. It had to do with the Russian-Ukrainian situation that we had to bring you some details on in the course of the news review. But up next, we do have sports with Muftau Abdullahi. Stay.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to AM Sports with me, Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. The Minister of Youth and Sports, Mustafa Usif, says government is committed to hosting the African Games 2023 as it is meant to promote Africanism and unite the rest of the continent. According to him, sport is a major tool to bring the continent together, and Ghana will serve as a great host for the event.
The African Games is all about bringing the youth of our continent together to exhibit their talents, promote Pan-Africanism among the upcoming generation, and create opportunity to develop friendship through sports. The exposure to other perspectives gained during socialization at the African Games makes participants, officials, and spectators more understanding and also tolerant to others' view and interests. The eventual impact on society is that people learn to peacefully coexist and resolve their differences more amicably rather than through violence means. It is for this reason and many more that the government of Ghana, and indeed the forefathers of the continent of Africa, deem it convenient to establish and support the organization of the African Games since 1965. The objective of the African Games are firstly to complement the United Nations plan of action to transform the world through the Agenda 2030 for sustainable development, and secondly to contribute to achieving the Africa Union Agenda 2063, the Africa we want.
Let's do some boxing now, and former IBF lightweight champion Richard Comey does not think the structure of the inaugural Professional Boxing League will inure to the benefits of boxers in the country. There's more in this report by my colleague, Asari Bidiakon.
The Professional Boxing League, which was launched in December 2021, will go down in the annals of Ghana boxing as one of the most significant showpieces on the country's boxing calendar. The Ghana Boxing Authority and IMAS Media Group have signed a 5-year deal. The new GBA management team's vision and efforts were given a huge boost by IMAS, which decided to support the development of boxing in the country by committing to invest a total of $1.7 million into the sport. The league has begun on a promising note, but not all stakeholders are happy with its introduction. One of such persons is former IBF lightweight champion Richard Comey.
You can't bring in something like this when everything is messed up. You know what I mean? And I know they want to do this. They want to do it because they've seen the money involved, and they know that is why they're trying to do it behind the promoters, the managers, because they know they give the bosses any amount of money and then they keep the rest. And that is, these guys put their life on the line. Remember, I always say this, you put these guys out there, you think they are stupid. No, all bosses are stupid. I ain't stupid. You know what I mean? And boxing, you need to be mentally strong and be wise. You know what I mean? Because it takes a lot to be a boxer. if it's easy, everyone will be boxer. You know what I mean? So it shouldn't be playing with the intelligence of the boxers. You know what I mean? Some of them are wise, just that they need someone like me who can see it how it is. And
the Ghana Professional Boxing League is a bi-weekly competition which provides a platform for boxers in the country to exhibit their talent.
The Ghana Soccer Center of Excellence in Pram Pram is set to undergo a massive facelift. Director of the center, Winifred Mawudeku, has been giving details about some of the structures they want to add to the facilities.
We have been able to do a lot of refurbishment and maintenance work around here. We've been able to also expand some of the facilities that we have, the usage of the facilities. We had a number of classrooms that were not being used, which have been currently being converted into dormitories, so that it will help us have more intakes and do a lot more training programs. We have tried to open the facility up. We have built a beach soccer pitch, which is still under construction, but it's good for the players to train if they don't have to go to the beach. And so a lot of activities have gone on within this short period, and we are looking forward to more. So currently, the contractor is yet to hand over the project to us. We know that he has almost finished. He's put the pipes and everything. We have to test it, and then he would hand it over to us. So I think in the next month or two, we will have the borehole water running. We already have a distillation plant here, and so we're going to distill it and take out the salt water, and then we can begin to use it. So everything is on course in that direction.
Shut up. You make me sick. Well, not from me. That was from the Speaker of Parliament, the Right Honourable Bagbin. We get into that all-important matter as we host Alhassan Suini, Member of Parliament for Tamale North, and Dr. Dixon Adumaku-Kisi, Member of Parliament for Anyaso Utuum. Now, apart from this, we're going to be talking about other topical matters as well, but our focus is going to be on Parliament. Later, expect us to get into the situation to do with our students in Ukraine and Russia. But let's get into the studio. Gentlemen, good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for having us here.
You make me sick. That's what I like to know. You don't make me sick.
But
trust
I
me.
hear you. I hear you.
How did you feel hearing those words from the Speaker and the threat that if some of you do not behave, if you keep acting in unparliamentary manners, which you would not find in other parliaments across the world, not the Knesset, not the in the UK, the House of Commons, the House of Lords, and the rest, they comport themselves. Why are you people not comporting yourselves? You are frustrating the right Honourable Speaker. Why?
Well, good morning. And as I was saying earlier, thanks for having me here. Yesterday was quite interesting. In fact, before we even ended the day, this was headlines across the nation. You know, that Bagbin, in his element, was very upset with us.
Bagbin fires Parliament.
But that are two things. One, I'll commend him for something he said.
Which is what?
That the 8th Parliament is unusual.
Right.
And there's something different about the 8th Parliament. And we need to be reminded about that repeatedly. So I will commend Mr. Speaker for reminding us about that. Granted, with regards to the decision made, I'm very much in support of what Joe Wise did, and you may ask me why. I'm a proponent of making sure that governmental institutions work, and I believe that governance would only improve if all of our governmental institutions are working appropriately. And in that sense, if we strengthen all agencies, if we strengthen the needed governmental institutions, then one, even the president's work is much easier. And in that sense, we have a process whereby budgetary concerns are taken through. And in this case, the expenditure for COVID-related monies has been put in the current budget and for all of us to see.
Right.
Now, mind you, we're in 2020.
But just a brief, add-on.
Yeah.
There still aren't clear details when it comes to some of those statements you reference. I mean, when we talk about how much we've expended on schools and on PPE, for example, there's no proper breakdown that we sent X number to X institution at X cost. Those are some of the details. Plus, we've been told, especially from the minority end, that initially, what was budgeted for COVID, the finance minister came back, there was extra spending, 8.2 billion, the 10 billion bid, and all of these, it's become a pot of accountability that we cannot pinpoint, go down to, and disaggregate and say, X went here, Y went there, Z went there. That is the problem.
I think that there's opportunity for any member of parliament to raise a question. And if you are particularly interested in maybe the monies used for feeding, which is also part of the expenditure,
right?
You can raise a question and go in depth.
You're talking of is this 50 million plus that was expended on?
I'm just
supposedly feeding
using that
people
as an
on the streets of
example.
Accra.
Nothing prevents any of us from raising that question. For the minister to come and give us an in-depth, account of that specific, item on the budget. Now, these are questions that can be raised. I have no problem with that. But the whole point is that it's going through not just the COVID expenses. A lot of expenditure from 2020, 2021 will go through the needed auditing regime in governance. And I think that we should allow them to do their job. And then when that is done, when we need to go beyond and above what the ordinary system has done, then, my whole thing is like, personally, if there's a case at the lower court, the Supreme Court cannot just take it, just like that. I really have a problem with that because administratively, something happens at the district, it has to go to the region and then to national. These are the way...
So you feel procedurally...
Absolutely.
This hasn't gone through the right process.
It hasn't.
But I felt on a matter like this, yes, you would have it to be raised. And I think at some point it was made mention of that. If you feel this is, a topical issue, present a private member's bill, which is what was prevented. And then, admitted, so to speak, by the Speaker of Parliament, only for Joe Osei-Wusu, the MP for Bekwai and First Deputy Speaker, to take over and say, for X, Y, Z reason, we are not going to admit it. And you throw it out.
And I really think that the two schools of thought here is that, one, do we want governmental institutions to work? Will we embolden them? I mean, and from even apprenticeship standpoint, if you want institutions to grow, you strengthen them. If you want
institutions also to grow and be responsible, you make them accountable, responsible.
Absolutely. And why don't we initially wait for instance, the audit department in this country to come out with, the in total analysis of
I disagree with you. You know why?
Why?
Oftentimes, why is it that we have all the wastage? The 12 billion that we've been talking about. How does all of that come about? It's because we wait till the rot festers, till the economy suffers from gangrene, and then we come back and we want to, by that time, the ordinary taxpayer has lost what is due him. There's the opportune moment to prevent that from happening.
I believe in preemptive strikes. I believe in preemptive things. But the case in point is that these are expenses that have been made. And that is a closed docket. If it's 1 billion that was spent, it's spent. And what we want to do is to go after and get a better understanding. And let me just make this always clear. And I really would beg the editorial services of most of the media houses to make this clear that, listen, the 12 billion, as we've worked on, and as we do work on, eventually turns out to be about 60% that is not really wasted.
No, I've always insisted as well that regardless of the pot of what goes into it, that figure has been put out there. I'm not saying that specifically it is X or Y, but I'm saying that whatever it is, whether it's a 9 billion component or an 8 billion component, let's not get there. Because what I've seen, when you talk about the Auditor General's report will come out, my point was that by the time it gets there, The harm has already been done.
No.
Remedying the situation, usually when it comes to, surcharge this person and that, it tends
budget,
to be futile.
Let me say this. What's in the budget is what's already spent. It's not a proposal of trying to spend.
So because
it's been spent. Listen, let's come in simple terms. You're making a travel trip to, let's say, France. You've gone, you're back, you spent X amount on tickets, you spent X amount on hotel expenses, X amount on feeding, and then you stated. And then somebody is claiming that, it's not clear enough. We want to know if you had coffee, how much sugar you bought, all of that. Fine, fair enough. It's a good question. What I'm asking is that there's an audit procedure. Let it go through the audit procedure. If you realize that one individual cannot take that much sugar, then that becomes a question for even all public discussion. And then the institution that is supposed to handle that, let it handle that, which we have in Parliament, which is the Public Accounts Committee. If you're not satisfied with the Public Accounts Committee, then you take it up to the next level. But here's the case that we want to, as it is, double the efforts, fine, but we should not take up what an institution has been created for to do.
Okay, so I'll come back for your take on the response of the speaker, because that is where I started from, but I see you've woven into the bit about what partly triggered this
whole thing.
His ruling being overruled by Joe Osei-Owusu. So I want your take on this entire private members bill, how it even came to Parliament, why it is important,
and why you shut up.
Whether no, well, maybe not whether he would shut up, but whether it was the right thing to do procedurally, before we come back to whether the speaker in his mannerisms and everything got it right.
Well, good morning to Doc, good morning to our viewers, especially the good people of the Tamale North constituency. Maybe on a lighter note, who said A reminds me of who said Chia.
Who said Chia?
How that's...
We've still not found who said Chia. The person was never found.
He lost his job, though.
I mean, yeah, the person got fired for simply saying who said Chia. We have lived in interesting times in this country, and that was all due to, the anger Ghanaians showed towards the representation that they had at the district level,
right?
Especially in that district, and it got results. I'm just thinking of Adwoa Safo and how she has abandoned our ministry, and the president doesn't even have. It looks like nobody even cares that she has abandoned the ministry, and that the president who appointed her should do something about it.
It looks like no one cares.
I don't really get the.
Are you telling me, as a member of Parliament, you've not heard from their side, even someone who has been with her? I just don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, from their side. I'm saying from their side.
I mean, people have come out to call her out and say,
I'm saying
this is not the right thing to do.
You see, I'm just talking about how we got the Who Said Chia sacked, compared to how Adwoa Safo is still on TikTok, MP Bakope. And the president is flying around and chilling.
You might want to check out her account. She deactivated it, but she's back.
She's back, right?
She's back.
That's good. But, what happened, or what has been happening in Parliament, especially in relation to the Speaker, and how his rulings are overturned, this being the second time, for me shows the magnanimity of those of us in the National Democratic Congress. And I think that the government must learn from it. I mean, the Speaker is in charge of the House. And on the two occasions that the, Deputy Speaker, overruled his decisions, he could have showed power. He could have come back to undo what, the Deputy Speaker did. And you know what that would have resulted in.
Right.
A
sort of power play. And for me, to be honest, that was a standout for me. Of all the things that happened, I actually thought, following proceedings, that he was inching towards that. So when he did not do it, I felt, oh, wow.
I'm telling you.
I mean, regardless of everything.
Excuse me to bask in that glory and say that is the magnanimity you find with those of us in the National Democratic Congress. It's not always the show of power and authority at every point in time. It's about working together. It's about, understanding that, people may have different views and may not really be bent on undermining you and bringing you down. So you are broad-minded. You take their decisions even when you disagree with it in a way that you do not bring about conflict. And I think that's what Speaker Bagwin
He did end by talking about working together.
Exactly. I think that's what Speaker Bagwin has been doing. And I'm saying that the government must learn from that kind of approach.
Right.
You know, instead of always wanting to show we are in charge and you can, you know, go bend the sea or hug the transformer. No. I mean, there must be a way for you to work with people that you even have authority over.
Right.
You know, without making them feel small, without making them feel
without unnecessary
like they don't matter. Yeah. So I commend the Speaker for that, and I think that we all need to learn from that attitude moving forward. But on the substantive issue of the motion, clearly, I think the Deputy Speaker got it wrong, and I disagree with Doc too when he makes the point that we have institutions already that are, you know, mandated to carry out these audits. We're talking about real-time audits here and how that impacts...
Real-time auditing being what you are doing with the private members bill.
What we are doing with the private members bill. And how that impacts even government's own agenda of convincing people that they are transparent. You know, for example, the hula baloo about the E-Levy, mostly for some people, is because of lack of accountability. For some people, that is the reason why they do not even find a reason. I mean, they do not find the need to pay any more taxes. Now, this lack of transparency relates mostly to the funds that the government received during COVID and how they expended those COVIDs. So you want people to believe that you utilize those funds well so that you can even engender confidence in them to want to contribute more through an E-Levy. You want the E-Levy now. You don't want it in the future. So why don't you take advantage of this real-time audit to demonstrate to the people that you are indeed utilizing funds that come to you to their benefit, so that they can, you know, go ahead and contribute more to you. Now, it is not just the minority that is calling for this. Only this week, Send Ghana, you published that story. Your media house published that story. Made a similar call for a special audit to be done on the COVID funds. Why? Because they have also identified some irregularities, even in the reporting. It may not be misappropriation or misapplication or even corruption. But if the reporting is not right, anyone can be forgiven to assume that the money has been, you know, misapplied or squandered. For example, they talk of water subsidy, where they revealed that the 2020 mid-year budget, you know, approved 560 million Ghana cedis for water subsidy.
Right.
But the 2021 updates only provided for 276 million Ghana cedis. So what happens to the rest of the money? Because if you look at 560 million Ghana cedis minus 276 million Ghana cedis, that's a lot left unaccounted for. Maybe the information is somewhere. An audit such as the one we are calling for in real time will provide the answers. Again, they talk about electricity subsidy and how 1.1 billion was approved.
Right.
And yet in the 2021 budget statement, no updates is given. What was the 1.1 billion used for? Which institutions benefited? VRA, Gridco, which ones? How was it distributed? Or was it squandered? I mean, in the absence of any updates, you can't blame anybody for assuming that it was squandered.
So you feel this is valid, bringing this up at this time, because we don't have enough information to corroborate what we're being told by establishment?
Absolutely.
That's basically what
Absolutely. So the point about our private members' motion, it's ensuring that we play our oversight role. And you see, the institutions of state that are mandated to carry out audits and others, do not take away the oversight role of Parliament. We can, at any point in time, that's why they say we are the masters of our own rules, inquire into any other matter that is of national concern. And our motion was to inquire and not to carry out an audit. It was an inquiry, not an audit. An audit is different from, carrying out an inquiry. Maybe you will carry out the inquiry and raise issues that will lead to an audit establishing the veracity or otherwise of the issues that will come up. So the Deputy Speaker got it wrong, and I think the government, if they support what the Deputy Speaker did, is also missing an opportunity to tell a story of how transparent they have been as far as the management of COVID funds is concerned. It is an opportunity missed.
Right.
If indeed they have nothing to hide. Unless, of course, it is the case that they stole the money. It's just like when somebody steals money, and I'm just being very practical. When someone steals money, the money is in his pocket, and then you say, let's search him. He's obviously not going to be very cooperative for a search to be conducted on him when he knows the money is actually
Do you feel the first Deputy Speaker should apologize to Parliament and maybe to all Ghanaians for his action?
Well, I think that will be far-fetched. I think that he must understand that the Speaker, who is his boss, has shown a lot of magnanimity. Between the two of them, he may want to render an apology to the Speaker and perhaps mend his ways moving forward.
He may want to render an apology to the Speaker.
That is what I would do in his position, and perhaps seek proper guidance going forward on how to, determine issues such as the one that he was faced with. And when he is not sure in future, I think that he must, he can always suspend the House for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and consult with the Speaker on how to move forward. He should not get to a point where the Speaker will have to also disagree with him and want to reverse his decisions publicly.
And this would be the second time that he's done that.
Exactly. And
hold it right there.
And they say that when you push a man, to the wall, your shoulders are going to lock.
Doc, now, do you have something to hide from your end as NPP? I mean, if you have nothing to hide, and some people have had the same line of thinking, if you have nothing to hide, why all this pushback? This is not it. You have nothing to hide. Just go along with the process.
One key thing, and there's always what we call precedence, and there's always what we call procedure. And my only thing is that I'm on the other side where I'm saying that we need to embolden, strengthen governmental institutions to do their work. And I'm of the opinion that instead of doing added on things, when we have clearly functional bodies doing this job, I'm for making sure, because in one breath, I believe that government institutions are not very efficient. Okay, and these are some of the inefficiencies we create. Duplicating of efforts is so common in governance, and I think that these are some of the unfortunate incidents where clearly, yes, a budget statement has been made, and in the budget there are items, and somebody has questions about it. And as we've always known, budgets are re-looked at severally, post, quote-unquote, humorously, let me put it that way. And as it stands, this is not real time in any way. It isn't, because it isn't a proposal and then we can stop.
Well, maybe not. I'm sure when he used real time, maybe not to hold brief for him, but maybe not real time in the proper sense of the word or the phrase, but more of something closer to reality than waiting till the entire cookie crumbles and then
No. And let's be mindful of this. And hear me out. The money has been
No,
spent.
I get that bit.
The
Absolutely.
money has been
I get that
spent.
bit.
So there's not cookie going bad. If it's gone bad already.
Let me ask you, Hassan.
In conclusion,
when I talk about real time.
Okay, so let him conclude. Let him conclude.
Yeah.
You have the opportunity to talk.
I think that, one, I'm of the opinion that governmental institutions should be strengthened and made to work well, and it improves governance in totality.
Right.
And I really think that that money, whatever the amount, is spent already.
All right, thank you. Your quick reaction.
See, when I talk about real time, Doc must understand that COVID alleviation is not over. We are still raising funds for COVID and, recovery programs. E-Levy is supposed to be one of it. The World Bank has just announced a 4.3 billion something package with
over a number of years.
So
this may not even necessarily be retrospective.
Exactly.
It may be moving forward.
Exactly. So you are looking at what you have done with the resources that have come to you to deal with the situation. And perhaps through that, you learn lessons on how to now, apply what you are now generating or getting.
So part of the idea is that mechanisms be put in place so that even moving forward, if we've not followed certain processes or done certain things you would have wanted in Parliament, now we can do them moving forward. So where do you feel though the buck stops, or part of the blame should be put when it comes to ministerial angling to the conversation? Is it the Health Minister Kwekwaji Mamenu, or is it the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta? Who should have gone further? Because in the end, when you speak to the finance ministry, they will tell you, well, we've put out the figures. If you want the details, go to the health ministry. Where do you feel the buck stops? And are we here because maybe the Honourable Health Minister has failed to come to the floor of Parliament to give some of the details he could have given to prevent this?
So you see why a bipartisan approach will help answer all these questions of who to blame, even though I don't think the intention will be to, find a scapegoat.
Not necessarily blame, but where to the groundwork.
So a bipartisan, inquiry into this matter will let us know, because you see, it's interesting. It's interesting. Can I finish? Can I finish? It's interesting that when we're considering the 2022 budget statement, the estimate, when we're considering the estimate, it's interesting that there were COVID expenditure done under certain ministries where the ministers were not, informed about it. For example, you had some expenditure in the foreign affairs, budget statement that the ministry claimed they had no knowledge of it, because all the, procurement and whatever were done at the Ministry of Finance, but in the name of Foreign Affairs. You had similar things even under Lands Ministry. So it cuts across. The COVID, expenditure cut across all sector ministries. You had some under education, some under health, some under lands, like I've indicated, some under, foreign affairs, and just as I have said, some of the ministers did not even know that such expenditures were made in their name. So an inquiry will establish the total funds that came, how those funds were distributed and utilized, so that everybody will come to terms with how well or not we used the funds that came to us
to be able
for
to
the
tell whether
purpose
the
of
funds are commensurate, or at least what we say we've spent are commensurate with
Yes.
what
So,
we
for
did
example,
with the funds.
For example, the Send Ghana concern that I just raised, when we said we allocated 576 million Ghana cedis to subsidize water for all of us to enjoy, we will want to find out whether, for example, Ghana Water Company actually distributed water worth 576 million Ghana cedis. And then the accounting, the update is 276 million. We'll want to know where the balance is. You understand? If Ghana Water did not pump water to the tune of 560 million, and for which they were only given 276 million, we want to know where the balance is. Maybe it's still available, and we may not need E-Levy.
Pretty fair. But so I want us to move forward.
Okay.
Now we've got to the point where Jose Wusu, gave the counter ruling, for which reason all of you got blasted in Parliament yesterday. Can we find middle ground on this? Because the Right Honourable Speaker, like we've said, stopped short of overruling the overruling by Jose Wusu, which for me, I felt was a sort of mature way, if you like, of dealing with the situation. What is the way forward? Because he also gave an alternative to your side, the minority, that if you still want to pursue this, there are processes to follow. Can we find middle ground? Because for me, sitting here, not just as a media person, consider me an ordinary Ghanaian, I'm becoming worried with the fact that every day in Parliament, it is kika, you are running kiti kata all over the place. Why? Can't we find some middle ground? And what would it be from you two, briefly?
You see, I don't think that it is fair, first of all, for the Deputy Speaker and those who believe with him to assume that because we have state institutions mandated with the responsibility of carrying out certain activities, then Parliament's oversight role in those areas must cease. I mean, if we went on that tangent, we will be reducing, the ability or the responsibility of Parliament. Even question times, maybe, people may wonder why you have to question a minister. I mean, media, you do it every day. I mean, so why do you really want to file a question to find out whether a minister has plans to establish a school in, I mean, what is that for? So we have in this Parliament set up committees to investigate even cash for seats. We have in this Parliament set up committees to investigate the procurement. I mean, you have the procurement ministry, the audit general.
What is the way forward?
So I'm saying that we must not limit the responsibility of Parliament when it comes to carrying out oversight. The way forward, as I have heard it being discussed among leadership, is for the Deputy Speaker's, ruling to be challenged, through a substantive motion, as suggested yesterday by the Speaker. And so it is not, off the table yet. The private member's motion bill is not off the table yet, because I believe that our side will challenge the Deputy Speaker's ruling through a substantive motion. And just as it was already admitted by the Speaker, it is my belief that it will be admitted. And, a committee will be formed. And we expect cooperation from the governing NPP. Because, like I said, it is an opportunity for them to tell Ghanaians that they are not corrupt.
All right, Doc, your way of moving forward on this.
I think that, in all honesty, it is important that government is transparent and more accountable.
Right.
It's very important. And I think that looking at the concerns raised today and even in the public domain is probably more appropriate that we let the individual ministries come out with more details. Right. Granted, as he rightly said, some things were done on the behest of cabinet, and somehow, some way, some ministers were not aware. And the COVID management was a very unusual management, and we need to also pay particular attention to that, some decisions had to be made out of the empowerment we had given the president to have bigger authority to do things that he would not have done in normal times. And in the likes of, for instance, trade ministry supporting textile industry during the COVID era. I mean, that's very unusual if you can, they changed a lot of things. Yeah. And we must bear in mind that these were, quote unquote, times of war against COVID. And as we well know what's happening currently in Ukraine and Russia, it's definitely not the time to ask Putin how much it costs to bomb one of those, So I think that we should bear in mind that it was unusual times, and some of the things that were done procedurally were compromised because of the times we're in. But I'm for more transparency and more accountability, and I believe in the finance ministry, and I think they'll go above and beyond.
So then you believe that maybe this motion should pass. The motion should pass so
Not
that
necessarily. I mean, these are
we can get the transparency and accountability and probity.
A question on the floor can draw some of these out.
Should the health minister, for example, come and answer some of these questions?
Oh, he's been answering, and I think that unfortunately,
if he had been given enough detail, the sort of details they wanted, I wouldn't be saying should he be brought back.
You know, there's the health committee, okay, and maybe I would love for us to wait and see what the health committee's report is on COVID alleviation and what was done, and then likewise works in housing, because I think the water program, and let me just add carefully that all the monies won't be just necessarily water. I'm sure there were infrastructural challenges, pumps and whatever issues.
See, even what you're saying now, corroborates why we need those details.
No,
Because when you put it in that box, someone will think, oh, it all went into water. Now it could be, like you're saying, that there's more to it than just.
Yeah, I mean, when you give Ghana Water money, they have to rehaul their pumps. They also use electricity to work.
Exactly.
You know, so let's be mindful.
So it's a basket of.
It won't be necessarily just water, drunk by all of us.
Let's quickly do this. I'd always like to acknowledge some of what you send through. This one coming through from Erickson says, and it's a related conversation, so I'm bringing it in. The people that are happy to squeeze out every coin is using E-Levy. On using E-Levy, are never ready to account for the money given them. That is Erickson. Co-Mentor Pillar 2 says, no matter the NDC's demonstration and propaganda, E-Levy baba live. Musa Abatua says, the Right Honourable Speaker, Alban Bagbin, has stamped his authority on dealing with unruly MPs who turn the House into their bona fide property and are doing what pleases them without following laid-down procedures. They are planning to pass the E-Levy by hook or crook. That's why some MPs are making the Parliament unattractive. Their conduct both on the floor and outside is shocking. I hope you pray the Speaker will continue to put the House in order. And you say, hashtag drop killer E-Levy now. Let me also just acknowledge that Rashid Shaban is watching us all the way from Nigeria. Okay, so the Speaker basically showing you who is the big boy in Parliament.
You want to roll with the big boys?
I think we should maybe someday we should play that song for Joe. I think yesterday he had Joe say who's running kitty kitty and running kata kata because he was like, hey, you want to cheat with the big boy? And the shut up. And, or maybe shut up. I know my level.
Maybe outside the chamber we'll have a logo. We won't shut up. I mean, I don't know.
We won't shut up.
That might be.
Hey, are you sure you want to do that?
Listen. We're supposed to vocalize the sentiments of the Ghanaian people in the chamber, and we should not be shut up.
You have rules to follow.
We should not be shut
in
up.
Parliament.
You know, so we will vocalize. We'll continue to express the sentiments of the Ghanaian people on the floor, and it might be distasteful for the Speaker, but in as much as I'm there to represent my people, there are over 300,000 people, I will always vocalize when I have the chance and won't shut up when I have the chance to do the right thing.
But you know, you're right that there are procedures to follow in the House.
I mean, it goes with that. It goes without saying that. As for talk, that is what you're there to do, to deliberate on matters.
I don't think that, and if to put it in context, the Speaker was not shutting anybody up who was on his feet to make a point on behalf of his constituents.
Right.
He was shutting up people who were
the murmuring voices, and all of that.
who were not taking on board the pieces of advice that he was seeking to share with us, and resorted to murmuring and even not paying attention and engaging each other. Whilst he was talking. I don't think the Speaker will shut anybody up who is on his feet to vocalize,
and we've had from the floor of Parliament people, hurl certain things at the Speaker in terms of telling him that he's not right and all of that, and maybe even suggesting he should shut up in the past. Yeah. We've had that. So I just want your quick take on this. Let's not stretch it too much. Let's not belabor the point. The Speaker did what he did. Some industry watchers, I think I heard Dr. Rashid Rahman say yesterday that he supports what the Speaker did in terms of the fact that This has never happened before in the Fourth Republic. And some of the things you should be observing in Parliament, you are not. For example, the hoisting of placards. Now it is going down. I mean, I remember the Bloody Widow incident, which was unfortunate, really, from your end, Alhassan Suini. I'm sure maybe today, looking back, you would regret it, but it was something that was done. Your side has done similar things. So it's from both sides. I don't even want to get into who was right or who was wrong, because two wrongs don't make a right. But you've not done the right things. Some are suggesting there are certain cordial things you should do for decorum to prevail in Parliament that you've not been following. The Speaker is laying down the law. How does that wash with you? And then the other bits about the tone of what he did. Gentlemen, the two of you, don't be political here. Be factual. Be honest.
Okay. So from my end, one, I want to reaffirm this, that we'll do our very best, but we're human. And quite frankly, when you boil up, you misbehave sometimes, because we're human. So
I want to the Speaker, having boiled up, misbehaved.
I'm going to talk for myself. I want to assure Ghanaians that we'll continually be very professional about our work. And granted, in the legal domain, emotions also get the very best of us. And we'll try as much as possible to be very appropriate in our choice of words, very appropriate in our manners. And I really think that to prevent this rolling out onto the streets, we'll do our very best. And granted that I still think that, it's important, it's good the Speaker is being stern and firm, but it could have been done in a very different way. I mean, we're adults.
Did he get carried away? Did he get emotional?
We're adults, for crying out loud, and we will conduct ourselves appropriately. And I really think that this goes to both of us. And sometimes to...
I agree, but before you go on, I agree. From both ends, sometimes you get supercharged and all of that. But I'm asking, did the Speaker get too emotional?
I think
he go overboard?
I mean, to say that we make him sick, I mean, that's a bit too much. And this could have been done, quote unquote, behind sort of closed doors.
But if he did it behind closed doors, it wouldn't send the sort of messages that sent now, would it?
Well, to each their own. I really think that sometimes, it's important that we chastise ourselves a bit because of the image, of Parliament. And the more we make it sink, the worse off we are as a country.
Al-Hassan, I meant for this to be pretty short, so I'll give
Even though your intro was pretty long.
All right. He's taken just about 2 minutes. I was watching, so
you see, you're right. I mean, the issue of placards and demonstrations in the House, whether in funeral club and showing red cards, have been criticized roundly by people as behavior that is unparliamentary. I share in that. And sometimes that is the kind of, consensus on what is wrong and what is right that I like, to see us move forward. For example, when you gave I don't want to go into the contents of the placards, but when you gave the example of the Bloody Widow, I had a scuffle with the Speaker. That it was then the Deputy Speaker, Joe Wise, when that issue came up. I mean, context matter. I mean, for example, on that issue, maybe on the day if I was in Parliament, I wasn't in Parliament though the day they carried those placards. But maybe on the day if I was in Parliament, maybe I wouldn't have carried a placard that would say Bloody Widow. Maybe I would have carried something that will still say what I wanted to say without using the Bloody Widow thing. But the next day...
So you feel that incident was unfortunate?
The next day...
Was it unfortunate?
I'm just telling you how it happened. The next day, I did an intro and I'm building on it.
Right.
The next day when I came to Parliament, that was when, a proposal was made for those who carried that placards to apologize for carrying those placards. And that is when I got a bit upset. Not because I didn't think that if people felt disturbed about it, there was a need to render an apology, but because I did not see a genuine approach to resolving the matter, in a way that members will all feel satisfied. Because we were talking about the other side also holding placards in the past.
So the premise...
So the premise I'm making is that
right.
the round condemnation that, okay, you have done that is bad, you have done this is bad, so let's move forward, is always the way to go in my view. And not to say, okay, you did that in the past, which was wrong. You have done this, which is wrong, so apologize. No, I mean, it's for me, it's not a fair approach. Right. And I think that the speaker yesterday was spot on when he made the point that this is a different parliament, one that we haven't seen before, not even under Gold Coast. And so we must take opportunity as members of this historic parliament, to lay a certain foundation that parliaments that will come after us will build upon. We must not miss this opportunity to make parliament, play the role that it is expected to play in every democracy. This may just be the turning point for Ghana's parliament. And as members of this historic parliament, I agree with the speaker that we must begin to do things differently. And what we do will become, the reference point for parliaments to come.
And speaking of, and I think Dr. Dixon Adomakukisi speaks for you as well when he talks about the fact that they're going to behave better in Parliament. I suppose the minority as well. You're also going to some of your engagements. But and in moving forward, like the Daily Graphic captures today, plain spoken engagement, Council of States meeting with the leadership of the minority, and I'm sure on matters of national concern, national scope, even including maybe your posturing on the E-Levy. Moving forward, maybe some of these things can be dilated on in a better way, to prevent scandalizing, Ghana and the entire world. Because some of these things have ended up on the BBC, Al Jazeera, and the rest. And who knows where we're going to be trending.
But you see, democracy comes at a price.
Right.
And as much as I want to share in the concerns that some of the things that happen in Parliament are not very edifying, I think that sometimes we are too hard on ourselves as a people. Because, look through the history of democracies in the world. And what we are going through is not a phase that other democracies have not gone through. And I always will relish an opportunity to do the things that we do now, because of democracy, compared to the lack of the opportunity to do them under any other.
You concur then with, is it Johnson Ketia, or is it former President Mahama who said that what you did that day was a fight for democracy?
Yeah, you see, there are times that, in fact, they are not. That is what our Constitution enjoins us to do. There are times we may not be all suity and all diplomatic in the defense of our democracy, and it's all well and good if it is in the defense of our democracy.
So let's put a full stop on that.
The alternative is not the best for us.
Right. Staying in Parliament, I want us to at least digest the Adwoa Safo situation and then take a brief look at Ukraine. Is it true that you've sacked Adwoa Safo from Is that correct?
I'm unaware of that.
You're unaware?
Unaware.
We've seen some papers carry that. We've heard word from your party, even the deputy majority leader, inching towards that she's been sacked.
Papers said
your deputy majority leader,
our current chairman, was dead when he wasn't dead. Papers say a lot of things. As far as I'm concerned,
your deputy majority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin. Can we take his word for it, or should we take it with a pinch of salt?
What was his word? I'm not aware, please.
Basically concerning Adwoa Safo and her sacking.
What did he say? Because I'm not aware of what he said.
Paraphrasing, she's been sacked.
I'm not aware. But if it is so, I have not seen anything in writing. I haven't. And I think if she has been, we would know. And I think it will be headline news, and whoever has that letter would provide it. I remember the Ghana, is it Civil Aviation, the CEO,
Ghana Airport.
Ghana Airport's issue or saga. before the guy even knew Jack, the letter was leaked. And in the same vein, I think that this is one of those that will be leaked quickly, if truly there was anything in writing. So with regards to Dome Kwabena, I think that it is a bit above my pedigree, in the sense that she's my senior member of Parliament.
But these are matters of legislative service. And we know why you are, voted into Parliament. You are supposed to represent your constituency.
And I'm doing that.
And if someone is not doing that, whether on their side or yours, you should be able to say, you are not doing the right thing. I mean, one of the things you're supposed to do is to show up in Parliament.
I can admit that
she's not been there for quite a while now, over 15 times now.
Is an issue. But I'm representing my constituency, and I'm doing it the best way possible, that I can. And on this matter, I'll revert to the former late president, Medimi Fiasem. On this matter, yes. I'll worry about Anyan Sotum. Although Dome Kwabena is my neighbor, or my...
Have you heard anything from your senior concerning how she is, her state of health? And how do you react to the fact that we are told, and we don't know which currency, whether dollars or cedis, that some 120,000 was put into her account, a private jet was made available to bring her into the country and all of that? You would like such treatment, wouldn't you?
In fact, I think...
No, would you like such treatment?
I think I almost have to also travel. But on a more serious note, I would hope that we have a full complement of our MPs, and I wish that was the case, barring unforeseen circumstances. This is a very peculiar scenario, and I'm happy to see the likes of the South Tong MP being a defender of...
Oh, you mean the North Tong?
North Tong, sorry, MP.
Okudzeto
Ablakwa, being a defender, and for once, seeing that there's good in using private jets, and I mean, because literally he's defending.
No, just because he stands up for her.
That is rather
jets.
Interesting. But in seriousness, I think Dome Kwabena is hurting. She's a very wonderful MP, mother, and was taking very good care of the constituency. If for health reasons, be it post-delivery related issues or not, I can't say. I'm not her medical doctor. But these things can happen, where after delivery you might have issues. I don't know.
So let's set aside Adjwasafo briefly. Since we're talking health, there is also word on the street that a number of your MPs are not so well. Of course, we'll not get into what is ailing them. But of course, and that is the reason, or part of the reason, you've not been able to bring the E-Levy back to Parliament, because if it were just Adjwasafo, it wouldn't be that. But I hear there are more.
Yes, it's on both sides. But I can state, because I know, let me trouble my good friend, OPK. For instance, he needs a surgical procedure done, and he's put it off, and it's a worry. It's a worry. So it's at least
that
on
is OPK.
OPK, and I mean, like I said, I'm cool with him, and I'll trouble him a little bit by putting this out there. I mean that it's one of the worries he needs, and others need urgent medical attention, and have put off all of those in sacrifice for quote unquote the public servant work, and it's unfortunate, and this is on both sides. Some need to have their heart functions checked here and outside. And then sometimes, doctors make recommendation that you should abstain from work for X number of days, and people are flouting medical advice and worsening their health conditions, and it's unfortunate. So I really, it's not just an MPP concern, it's literally across. Many key engagements outside on our own, to help Ghana gain more foreign direct investments, have been brought to a halt, and delegations can go out to even sell our country simply because members of parliament are now sort of, in a way,
So I get the picture.
Yeah.
Quickly from your end, when it comes to Adjwasafo and maybe your take on all of these happenings, whether she's been sacked or not. I've heard different things, though, about the procedures to follow in this instance. We had, the Tamale Central MP, Murtala Mohammed, here yesterday, who was saying that it has to go through the committee and a committee to be formed to the plenary and a 2/3 vote and all of that. I've had counter arguments that no, that is not the case, because obviously your end will not vote in favor of, removing her from what we've been told.
It's not.
How do you feel about it, and what is the procedure to follow in Parliament?
It's not obvious that if it's got to that point, our side will not vote in removing her from Parliament. And that is why I also think that Doc and maybe yourself have not been fair to the North Tongue MP, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. I think that he has not, he didn't stand up for Adwoa Safo. He has not stood up for Adwoa Safo.
He sat down.
All he has said is that...
Well, not throughout what he said, but at least he's also suggested that, he did mention that it is not right. The constituency deserves development, deserves to have their member of parliament
all
to
that
do the right thing. But he didn't call her. I think what he's saying is that he didn't call her out.
No. The point is she's been pursued for a wrong that he thinks others are guilty of. So put them together. That's not standing up for her. That's just calling for fairness. That's standing up for fairness. That's not standing up for either of the culprits. That's calling for fairness. So I don't think it is fair
to point well made on that.
Can I finish on it? That's not fair to say that she stood up for Adwoa Safo. No, she is. He's calling for fairness. That if you are going to treat,
so all of us couldn't call for fairness.
If you are going to treat Adwoa Safo this way, then treat all others who are equally guilty the same way.
Okay.
That's not standing up.
Hold just a second. My sincere apologies for this. I have to do this. Pardon me.
Yeah, you always
I see.
You always do. You always do.
This is not from...
Yeah, because I always make that point.
That's right. I have to. So you were making a point. To be fair, I'll let you land on that, so we can quickly look at some of the comments passed and call it a conversation.
You were talking about whether Adwoa Safo is sacked or not being sacked, and what other people in the NPP leadership are saying, and all of that. And I agree with you. It's a bit confusing. I have seen publications suggesting that she's been sacked. But in all of this, the impression it gives me is that Ghanaians, or if you like, some sections of Ghanaians, have been so tolerant of President Akufo-Addo and his vice, Dr. Bawumia, to the point that even when they are unable to do what we all expect them to do, we create the impression that they have done it. Because we all know how ministers are sacked. But in the absence of, that process of sacking the minister, you get publications trying to perhaps manage the situation by saying that she's been sacked. The president has the appointing authority, and if the minister is misbehaving, quote and unquote, you should just relieve her of her post. If you have no authority to remove her as a parliamentarian, don't you have the authority to remove her as a minister?
Are you for her removal as a minister? Are you for her removal? Owing to her absence?
Let us be sincere. Under which government will any citizen tolerate this dereliction of duty of a minister? Under which government?
Okay, so you are in support.
It is only under a government that we so tolerate. We don't want to blame the president or the vice for anything. And so their appointees,
no need for
their appointees can misbehave and misconduct themselves any way they want, and we would still, have the patience to discuss and talk about it. I think that it is unfortunate that we are at this stage where we do not even know the state of Adwoa Safo, either as a minister of state or not. Please just be fair with me. I think that on the issue of her representation of Dom Kwabena, I agree with Mutala that the process is long, but I don't agree that it is automatic, that if it gets to a vote in the House, our side will not, vote for her censure. A lot of things will be considered, and that will determine whether we'll vote for or against the motion. But just brief comments finally on...
Okay, so before you come in, I wanted to do this. I'm going to give you 2 minutes each, or 1.5 minutes, if you can manage it. You can squeeze in quick comments on what just showed from the streets of Circle, and then share your brief thoughts on Ukraine, what is happening, our students, should we bring them back? Just put that together, both of you, and we wrap. If you don't want to talk about one, you can just go for the other. I'll start with you, Doc.
Yeah, so the Ukrainian issue or situation, very unfortunate. And I think I side with Americans in terms of protecting the sovereignty of Ukraine. And it's unfortunate that Putin is, as it is, trying to carve out another nation out of Ukraine. It's very unfortunate.
He's basically trying to wipe them out of existence.
Literally. And I really think that this comes down to the need to strengthen countries, militarily and also economically. And I'm sure that if Ukraine had that, considering what they did for other places like Germany, we would have been at a better place. And I'm happy that the other European countries are marshalling forces to help Ukraine, and I think it's appropriate. Now, with regards to our students coming back, I, at this point, think it might be a bit too early. That's just my thinking. I think we should hang it there, see what the world authorities do. If there will be evacuations, when other nations probably start, I think there'll be a window or door of opportunity for us to evacuate them, if need be.
This just came through. What is the role of Parliament, I mean, in all of this to evacuate students, bring them back? I interacted with some of them. I don't know whether you followed this morning.
Yeah.
One just came through on Saturday. Disastrous situation because he says no communication. Egyptian citizens, Indians and others, they've heard from their missions. For us, nothing, zero. And they are frustrated. So what role will Parliament play in all of this?
We need to pose a question to our Foreign Affairs Ministry and have the Foreign Affairs Ministry answer to us as Ghanaians as to what steps or what they know. And I think that would be apt. And that would be an urgent question. It is an urgent question.
Well, over to you. So,
yeah, I agree largely with what he has said, except that I don't agree that it is too early for us to do anything. I think that it is...
I don't think he...
I said evacuation.
That's what he said. He said it's too early
to evacuate.
To consider evacuation. We should wait and see.
So not anything.
The students don't feel that way, trust me.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. That's where I disagree. I don't think that it is too early for us to begin to consider evacuation.
Right.
Evacuation is not just an event. It's going to take a whole lot of processes put in place for that to happen. And so we must begin doing that now, especially when we are told that communication lines are being cut off. Food supplies will soon become a challenge.
And even the possibility of flying out is
will also become a challenge. So I think we must begin to put the structures in place to ensure that they are evacuated from Ukraine as soon as possible, and even possibly Russia, because as we speak, Russia too is not safe when you consider how the other European countries are coming together. And we are told that Biden will address the world later today. We don't know what the U.S. will also be intending to do and all of that. Putin is still threatening that anybody who crosses his line is going to,
see something in the line of fire.
In the line of fire. And so it's pretty tense now. And so we must be working on how to evacuate our citizens at this point. Now, on the attitude
very briefly
displayed by the citizens that have just been spoken to, I'm a bit disappointed. I think as a people, we are too docile. I mean, and you see, that's why
it works to your benefit too when you are in power.
No. In fact, trust me, I have never liked a docile attitude towards even my politics.
Be an active citizen.
I love and when I was on radio,
20 seconds and counting.
When I was on radio, what I always urge my listeners to do was to be active listeners. I like that thing because you see, it is what makes you better. There are times I'll open my phone lines and say, criticize me. Let me know what you think I'm not doing right. Because it makes you better. And they say people get the kind of government they deserve. And so when we when we are lackadaisical, when we think that, oh, I mean, life goes on, we will get that kind of treatment. We will get that kind of treatment from leaders every time. And so I'm a bit disappointed. Even as they appreciate the problems, life goes on. That is not how the West developed. Their citizens demanded better and got angry when better. I was listening to Mensa Otabil the other day when he talked about the difference between floods in Africa and floods in the Western world. When the cameras are showing, you know, flood victims in the developed world, you see the anguish, you see the devastation, they feel it. But hey, we wave at the cameras and we laugh and we smile. And so we get the kind of treatment.
This is where we cap off the conversation. Once we have them in here, we never end the conversation. Even we continue talking afterwards. But thank you, gentlemen, for joining. Hassan Suini, of course, Member of Parliament for Tamale North. And we have Dr. Dixon Adumakukisi, Member of Parliament for Anya Soweto. Thank you so much for coming here. We take a break now. We'll be back as we wrap up on the AM show. A lot more coming your way. You don't want to miss the rest of it. We'll be telling you about the UTAG strike and those votes from the 15-member institutions. What have they been up to? Find out when we return. So we're going to the streets of Circle, and we have my colleague Mapito Sibidi. Now, she's coming through with some views percolating from the streets, if you like. Mapito, good morning. Thank you for joining us. What is the latest you're bringing us from the streets of Circle?
Let's say you are working for a salary. When the fuel price is up, the transport fare is up, but your salary is fixed. It doesn't go up, it doesn't come down. And it made the situation very hard for us, yes. Either we take trotro for work every day, it's a big problem to us. And we don't know, it's a problem. Yeah, it's a problem.
All right, from transport, let's talk about water and sanitation. And I'm not sure where you live, but you know, a lot of people have been complaining that the tap is not flowing. What's the situation in your area? Where do you live and what's the situation?
Okay, I live around Achimota and sometimes too I'm Medina, other times too I'm Taifa. And with the water and the sanitation, we are facing the problem. Sometimes 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you not get the tap flowing. And you visit other areas. If you are lucky, you get the water. If you are not lucky, you don't get it. And you can imagine living without water. It's very, very, very hard. And at the end of the month, too, the bill will come for you to pay. You didn't use water, but you have to pay for a bill. They'll come, as you come to the office, you go and you don't meet any better information or anything. They'll just tell you will come or something. So it's a problem that we are in, and we are looking forward maybe they do something about it.
And how have you been coping with this problem? What have you been doing?
Sometimes you have no option than to wait for the water to come. Sometimes you visit the office. I remember the last time we went to this Kwabeyan, they asked us to go there. We went there and go and bring this, that. You don't have time. You can't use all our time for those things. So you were just assured that they'll come and do it. And I don't know. Sometimes it will come, sometimes it's not.
Have you been following what's happening in Parliament, Address 4 and all of those things? What are your thoughts on the Parliament brouhaha that's happening?
Talking about Parliament, it's something. The Address 4 issue, I've heard of it, I've been watching on the television. The last time she was dancing on TikTok and all those things. It's very a shame. Yeah. People of Taifa Dominic have been voted you to be MP. To be there for them, fight for them and do things for them. I don't know the exact place she is, but all I saw was she dancing on TikTok and I don't know. And this man, Honorable Kennedy Abon, was lambasting her or something. It's not of good attitude, if I may say that. It's not of good attitude because people didn't vote you to come and do things in their own. You understand? Yeah. Right. Okay. So, now, I don't know, but this is Ghana. In fact, with the fuel you mentioned earlier, you all know that immediately fuel price goes up. Everything rises in terms of cost of living. And I heard the Petroleum Commission saying the government should, take off some tax that is letting them increasing the something or like that. I don't know. But it seems they are saying it and it's not being done. So we are all looking up to that. But we plead on the government to, listen to us too. Because talk of rent and all those things. They are killing us already. So if fuel prices are coming for transport to kill us too, it will be bad. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much for your time. So like the gentleman said, this is Ghana and things are happening. And the most important thing is that we have to talk and listen to what Ghanaians have to say about this. So good morning, you're live on Joy News. All right, this gentleman doesn't feel like he wants to speak. Madam, you're live on Joy News. We want to talk about the fuel increase and transportation increase. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we can't do much about it. Economically and across the world, there's going to be an increase in so many things. So I'll just accept whatever comes.
Talking about accepting whatever comes, you know obviously about the E-Levy. What are your thoughts on the E-Levy?
Well, I have a challenge with the E-Levy because I'm a government worker, I'm a nurse. And I'm paying tax already from my salary. So if the little money I have in my mobile money is also going to be deducted, I think it's not fair to government workers. Yes, so I don't agree to that one.
So there's fuel, there's E-Levy, and there's also water. A lot of people have been complaining that their taps are not flowing. Where do you live and how's your water situation?
Well, I live at Sapema and I have a borehole, so I don't have issues with water. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. Daddy, good morning. You're live on Joy News. So tell us about the fuel increase. What are your thoughts on the fuel increase?
I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. Hi, good morning. You are live on Joy News. I want to know about your thoughts on the fuel increase, the E-Levy.
No comments, please.
Why? Because, I mean, you're a Ghanaian, and then this E-Levy will affect you. I know that you use Momo. You are sending your people, your friends, your mom, your family, mobile money. What are your thoughts on the E-Levy? The government says that we will tax you on your E-Levy. So what are your thoughts? On your mobile money transactions, what are your thoughts?
Life goes on.
Life goes on. And that's it. So even with the water situation and you not having water, life goes on?
Life goes on.
All right. You voted for MPs to work for you, and if they're not, you didn't vote? Yes. All right. Thank you very much for your time. Hi, Uncle, you're live on Joy News. Good morning. I want to know your thoughts on fuel increase, fare increments. I mean, you're going to work right now. You will most likely pay extra. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a tough situation, you know. It's a tough situation. What I think is the government should do more to help to kind of bring down some of these things in order to make life easy for those of us down here. Yes. That's what I have to say.
All right. And now let's talk about the E-Levy. What are your thoughts on the E-Levy?
So I strongly believe it might not see the light of day, looking at how the whole situation is going. So let's leave it as it is until, because I strongly believe it wouldn't really work. Yes.
Oh, and why do you believe so?
Because they've gone through a lot of processes and still hasn't really been able to, you know, push it through. I know governments are able to do a lot of things, but it seems this is becoming a very difficult situation for them. So I don't think it will see the light of day.
All right, and let's talk about water situation. How is it like in your area?
I personally don't have water situation or like water problems or anything like that. So I wouldn't be able to, you know, speak for others, but I certainly do not have any of that challenge.
And then have you been following the parliamentary proceedings, what's happening in Parliament? What are your thoughts on all of that thing that is happening in Parliament?
It's shameful, but certainly they are working for their political party. So these things wouldn't change. Yes.
Thank you very much for your time. So you heard from some Ghanaians. Some say life goes on. It doesn't matter what happens, whether the fuel is increasing. And on the other hand, other Ghanaians are saying that government needs to make life easier for its citizens. From here at Circle, I'm Mapito CBD. Back to you, Benjamin Akakpo, in the studio.
Mapito, thank you. Beautiful work there for bringing us those voices from the streets, a cross-section of Ghanaians and what they think about some of the happenings out there. And I'll just say this, not to rub off anyone negatively, but Menso Charlie, Ibia coming. 3 weeks now, water hasn't flowed through my tap, so me too, Charlie. I have to do to get some water to come and sit here and look at Sheshe Bobo. And it's a matter of concern for all of us, parents, ordinary Ghanaians alike. UTAG strike has been suspended pending votes from 15-member institutions. The UEW has said, no, we are not going that way. The University of Ghana, similar situation. Engaging us this morning, the Vice President of UTAG at the University of Education, Winneba, Dr. Pascal Bodo, joins us for a conversation. Good morning, Doc. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure having you join the conversation. So from where you sit, and indeed you are sitting, so from where you sit, I mean, the court has delivered its ruling and you're supposed to comply. In the interim, at the University of Education, Winneba, do we see that compliance? Are teachers back at post?
Yes. As a matter of fact, the decision of the National Executive Committee to suspend the strike has nothing to do with the court order. As far as the court order is concerned, we went ahead to suspend the strike for a short period before the date to hear our motion came.
Right.
And for that, we drew that motion. We suspended the strike considering some other factors. However, a two-phase process. The first phase is where the NEC takes a decision to suspend the strike. And that is what happened on Tuesday. Immediately that happened, the second phase is triggered. The second phase is where the member campuses would have to vote to either accept the decision or reject the decision, something we did and something UG did yesterday. However, this window for all the member campuses to vote on the decision will last for 5 days. After that, we will send our resolutions to NEC, and NEC would have to convene in 5 days to consider all the resolution and then issue a statement on it, either to resume the strike or to maintain the suspension. So currently, effectively, Tuesday, midday Tuesday, when the national executives announced the suspension is in effect. That will stand until the 5 days process comes to a conclusion.
So there is this 5-day process, and of course we're inching towards next Tuesday. But is that to say that guaranteed all 15 institutions are going to put this to a vote by Tuesday or before Tuesday?
Yes. Yes, all 15 institutions are supposed to put this to a vote, had done that already. UTAG, UEW was the first to do that. UTAG, UHAS did that, and UTAG, UG did that yesterday. Unfortunately, 2 of the 3 institutions voted to reject the decision. However, their vote would not decide whether these 2 votes cannot overturn the decision of NEC. All the 15 institutions will have to put in their votes, and then it will be considered. If a majority of the campuses vote to reject the decision, then the decision is so rejected. And for that matter, a date must be fixed for the resumption of the strike action.
So just to clarify,
hopeful.
Just to clarify, so this is a simple majority situation. So if 8 institutions out of the 15, so 8 for the rejection and 7 against the rejection, if 8 vote that you are rejecting the next decision for teachers to go back, it means you will then sit down and look at another timetable for resuming your strike.
Exactly.
Okay.
I was going to say that we are, however, hopeful that within this window, while we can say clearly that our suspension of the strike is in effect, the government side will take advantage of the window open for negotiation and conclude the negotiation within this window. If that happens, then no matter how many campuses voted to reject the decision, will come to nothing because we would have achieved our aim for the strike in the first place.
Which is what? Achieved your aim. As of now, what have you achieved?
As of now, what we want is better conditions of service.
And you've not got that. You've not got that yet.
The government promised that as soon as we suspend the strike, they are going to sit down with us to resolve all the outstanding issues within 1 week. That is why we are saying that while the campuses are voting, are casting their votes and sending their resolutions to NEC, government should take advantage of the window created to engage the negotiation team so that by the time the process is ending, they would have decided how to better the conditions of the lecturer. As a matter of fact, we received an invitation from Fair Wages and Salaries Commission yesterday, inviting the negotiation team and the national executives of UTAG to a meeting, supposedly to start the negotiation process.
Okay. Has there been any interaction between, apart from the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, has the employer been reaching out through this window, even as you vote, maybe to forestall the action you are contemplating by Tuesday?
No, we have not received any interaction from the employer, but we are considering Fair Wages and Salaries Commission as part of the employer. And at our meeting later this morning, we hope the other parts of the employer arrangement would be present, because the letter was copied to the Minister of Education, Minister of Employment and Labor Relations, Minister of Finance, and all the other key players in the negotiation process.
Right. My final bit to you, where do you see this inching towards? A short while ago, you were saying that you were hopeful some resolution could be sought, but your institution has voted to reject, the next decision and all of that. Do you feel in the end more institutions will vote to reject that decision, which would then culminate in a renewal of the strike?
Yes. More institutions are going to vote to reject the decision. However, the situation can only be salvaged if the employer engages with the negotiation team to resolve the matter by the time the process runs out. That is what we are hoping for. This is only to show, if you see the voting pattern, it's only to show how much trust we have in the process as far as the employer is concerned. There have been several agreements signed in the past that the employer did not work with in good faith. And that is why our people are very skeptical, believing in the process going forward now. But I think it is also an opportunity for the employer to kind of save the process so that we can believe in whatever they tell us in future.
Doc, I just want your brief take on this in maybe some 40 seconds. We have our brothers and sisters in Ukraine and Russia in school. Since it is tertiary education we are talking of, some of them want to be evacuated, or practically all of them. What do you think on that, very briefly?
Thank you very much. I was listening to the news this morning, and I think we don't need to waste any time. These hostilities, we were aware is going to happen. At a point, it was just a matter of time for it to, once it started, the government should now take steps and start evacuating our students from Ukraine and Russia. We don't know how worse it's going to get in the coming days. We don't want to wait until it becomes virtually impossible for us to evacuate the people before we start acting.
Right.
The time to act is now.
The time to act is now. Dr. Pascal Okpodo, thank you so much for joining the conversation. Dr. Pascal Okpodo is Vice President UTAG at the University of Education, Winneba. I did tell you at the start of the show you didn't want to miss a beat. Hopefully it's been worth your time. This is the AM show. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. At 10 and at noon, we bring you our major bulletins. But tomorrow, we'll bring you the week-ending installment of the AM show. It's always a pleasure. Do have a good day.